Do it every week. We'll be okay.
All right. So welcome everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally and this is Laura Vann-LaRusso. Are we
Hello.
live yet? So welcome everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally and Laura Vann-LaRusso. And this is Coach2Coach. And so welcome everybody. How's everybody doing this afternoon? Laura, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Keith. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. And so I'm kind of excited today because I'm now on a countdown. So I'm coming up to New York. I live here in Virginia. I'm coming up to your neck of the woods.
Very
And
happy about that.
on May 15th, I'm part of a Blue Talk event. And so I'll be speaking at Columbia University and I'll be giving a talk on the power of permission, which is actually part of my book, Walking the Path. And so
Hmm.
I hope to see everybody out there who's up in the New York area, Columbia University, on May 15th. But we're not here to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about value. Now, I know that you like adding value to your client's life, and that's what we do as a coach. And so our whole job is to show them what they can't see, add value to their lives, to do things that they may think they can't do. And
Right.
so when we talked before, you pulled a question out of my book,
That's
page
right.
100, page 100.
That's right.
What's the question?
This book right here.
What's the question?
Oh,
So
no. Hang on. And the question is,
the question is,
it's
how
on
do you
page
show your
one.
value for other
How do you
people, right?
say it again, Keith? Say it
How,
again,
how
please.
do you show your value for other people? And the other part of that is what actions show that you have value for others. So I think this
Mhm.
is a really good topic to talk about. Laura, let's get started.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm so glad that you remembered to bring the book into it because it is essential. How do we bring the value and how do we act on that? Okay, so how do we bring value? Well, first of all, a very quick shout out to Dr. James Liu, who introduced me to this concept of niche coaching, right? And how niche coaching adds value for my clients is that it's individualized, right? And really, when you think about it, no matter what type of coaching you provide, when you take the time to build your relationship with your customer or client, you are taking the time to build value because you are establishing trust. You are establishing a sense of keeping your own word and being clear about what your person's goals are and objectives are. And you are showing your sincerity in wanting to deliver the right kind of support and a proper product, if you will. So niche coaching adds value because it does all those things. I sit down with you, we talk about your individual challenges in your communication journey, and I design a program explicitly for you based on your professional status and your personal and professional goals that you want to achieve. That's really different than all the millions of other ESL programs that are out there that you can find everywhere in every state. Those programs are quite good, but they deal with general English, not the specific needs of, let's say, the intermediate or the advanced speaker of English as a new language or second language. So that's one way that I try my very best to deliver that value to the client.
So with somebody comes to you, Laura, somebody knocks on your virtual door and says, I'm really having problems with it, probably more than anything, advancing in my career. So this is hypothetical. I'm an
Sure.
established professional,
Mm-hmm.
but I have trouble uh, giving presentations, and I'm expected to give presentations as part of my work responsibilities. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad at it. They do have
Right.
credentials. They were hired to do a job, but stepping into a place that may be uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
is very, very challenging for people. They lack confidence. They sometimes feel that they're not even qualified to do those things. But you just said that when somebody comes to a coach, knocks on their door and says, "Can you help me?" Immediately, you turn around and try to establish what with the relation, what with that client coach relate. What are you trying to establish first? How does it?
Very
How does
good.
that? How does that whole relationship begin?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for the clarity there. What I want to really make clear to the audience is, how do I start? I start by asking you, the client, what are the specific challenges that you are having, right? So let's say, for example, I've dealt with many lawyers, and I've also mentioned in the past that I've worked with advocates, for example,
Mhm.
and they have years of experience providing educational workshops, community outreach workshops about different laws regarding immigration, or even different nutritional programs and that people need to know more about. It can vary. The topic doesn't matter. What matters is, who are you? What do you do for a living? And what are the barriers that you are experiencing in your efforts to speak English as your second or new language? Those are my three questions that I always ask to begin with.
So do you help only those people who English is not their primary language, or can you help anybody kind of step up and be a better presenter or better speaker?
I can help anybody. Now that has evolved. I
Talk to
can
me
help
about that.
anybody. Yes, I can help anybody, because when I first started coaching online, as we talked about, like as
Okay,
the
yeah,
pandemic,
yeah.
brought all its joy to us and all its drama to us, we all had to figure out what to do. I discovered in working with a variety of professionals that I can also help those folks that are native English speakers. And why is that? Because even as a native English speaker, we all struggle initially with the idea of standing and delivering, right? Having confidence when you speak, pacing yourself, learning about that pause, that trick
Everything
that
that
we
we talked about
do.
last week, right? The four
Yes,
P's.
all
Yeah.
those things. So yes, I can definitely, I'm not limited. But I am credentialed in ESL. But yes, I'm definitely not limited to only second language speakers.
Well, let's
I,
talk about
I
that.
help
Let's
other
talk
people.
about what you just said earlier. What are some of the hurdles, some of the obstacles who's for people who English isn't their primary language? What have there been kind of like consistent themes or challenges that they have as a group? Have you noticed anything?
Yes, definitely. So I've been teaching in that area for an ESL for about 15 years. And after about 15 years, you definitely notice some patterns. And what are they?
Yeah.
They are concerns about one's accent, right? Now,
Okay.
the accent is really not the problem. It's about gaining clarity when you communicate, because we all have an accent. As I mentioned before, whenever I go out, I have family in Virginia, and I have family all over the country. And whenever I go to Florida, I'll say, "Oh, you are definitely a New Yorker," and I say, "Why? Why do you say that? Can't we have some coffee?" So everybody has an accent. What is important is clarity. So that's one major concern. Another concern they may have is informal English. I might
What's that?
even informal English, things like when you say things like, I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. I'm gonna see you. Or what's up? What's up, Keith? What's up? What's up? I don't know. The sky? What's up? What do they mean? What's up? So those phrasal verbs can be tricky, right?
Okay.
So it's informal English and phrasal verbs, accents, informal English. And the other third part would be the idea of being comfortable with small talk,
Hmm.
being comfortable with having a small, simple conversation in a social way with another colleague. Sometimes, because the person is coming from another country or another culture, they may not necessarily understand a certain way of speaking, and they may also be put off by a certain body language. It can be hard to read, right? So the cultural differences between people can lead to miscommunications as well. So they have to become more aware of cultural differences in terms of communication between different groups of folks.
Well, I'm glad that you've recognized that there are some patterns and themes that, people whose English is not their primary language do have challenges with, do struggle with. Earlier in this conversation, we talked about specifically adding values to people's lives. And so the first thing, after you recognize that they have challenges, they've come to you with, this scares me, or I don't want to do this because we need to give them some actionable items. I know as a coach that when I talk about, leadership 101, especially for the entrepreneurs and emerging leaders of tomorrow, is that they need to find their authenticity, their space, and their purpose. Sometimes it's really difficult to even recognize that you have a purpose, especially for a very young or younger generation. I always say I'm a half a century old. So I've had some experience, with the world, but when somebody comes to you for communication help, communication advice, what would be the first thing that you would give them as like a golden nugget, some secret sauce that would definitely immediately add value to their life and their place in work?
One key component that I always introduce immediately and remind them of immediately is that they're coming to the table, right, with expertise already.
Wow.
So just because you are struggling in your communication skills, whether it's you're a native speaker of English and you want to improve and increase your confidence, or you're a second language or new English language learner, you still have expertise. It's just a matter of identifying what area is making you the most nervous, what area is very important for you to learn and get better at quickly, because as professionals, there's expectations that we have to meet, right? Your promotion could be determined by your ability to run workshops or do presentations, for example. So my advice is, first of all, remember that you come to the table as an expert. So for example, I mentioned that I've had lawyers come and ask for help, and I was personally amazed because, hey, I'm a new entrepreneur, relatively new myself. So there we all make assumptions, and I made an assumption that why would a lawyer need help with communication? I mean, that's all they do. But the thing is that they maybe had accents, or maybe they were working in all male office and they were the only female there. And for whatever reason, that might have been intimidating for them. So there could be language issues that they're struggling with, and they forget about the fact that pardon me, let me back up. You know how I get so excited.
No, you were doing good. I was following you.
So they can have language concerns, communication struggles, and they can also have cultural differences or misunderstandings, even in their own minds. And that can cause them to not remember that they are still very, very qualified at what they do as professionals. Because and so that's my first step. Remember that you are that lawyer. Remember that even if you need help communicating it in this new language, you still have that expertise. It's just a matter of us working together and me helping you to build that bridge so that you have the confidence to express yourself.
Well, I also like not only that you remind your client that they come with the level of expertise. They're a subject matter expert in something. And so they've established that credential already. But you also made it clear that to gain that first nugget of confidence, they need to accomplish something rather quickly. And so it would be a small task or a small win to kind of give them that confidence, the boost of confidence, maybe even, and I'm at a loss for words, which is not for the question guide. I'm never at a loss for words, but to step into something new, something
Mhm.
challenging, you have to feel and not just think that you can do it. You got to feel that you can do it. And
Right.
so I was last week I was on a Blue Talk
Mhm.
event, and I was listening to much of the other conversations. And one of the conversations, this lady was talking about, she was at a retreat, a week-long retreat, right? And
Right.
during this retreat, and this is going to, they had to walk over hot coals. And so
That's like
I've never,
amazing.
I've never done that myself, but the lady that talked about it did it. So she was, throughout the week, it was small, 10-foot
Right.
sections. But at the end of the retreat, she had to walk this 40-foot long hot coal,
Wow.
laying a hot coal. And she hesitated.
Hmm.
She could do the small steps,
Right.
but she hesitated with the big event. And we sometimes get that way. We can do the small things. We have success in the small things. But when those small things are now really
Huge.
large,
Yeah.
it took somebody else who was at the retreat
Right.
to say, didn't you already do this like all week long? Didn't you already do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my talk, I give permission. He gave her permission. He made her think differently because she's already done it. And so oftentimes we come to our clients and say, tell me a story of when you've done this, even in a small sense. Because
True.
when we pick up those small pieces, we recognize that we could have success in the bigger picture. Yes,
That is such a great point. I couldn't agree with you more.
I appreciate it.
Reminding the person that, as we talked about even before that, that confidence and skill building comes in small steps, but all those small steps lead to your bigger picture.
Yeah,
The thing is, as you say, most folks are willing to do the small things and then just stop right there.
because it's easy.
It's easy. And that's where we come in as coaches and we say, well, okay, you had some small talk over lunch with your friend, and that's great. Now I want you to practice speaking for like a half hour,
Yeah.
on a given subject at a staff meeting. I want you to raise your hand at a staff meeting and fully participate in that meeting and contribute and for a longer period of time. And oh, now you've done that. Now let's go to the next space of working on your presentation skills, where you will run that next staff training or professional development training, and you will present information. So people have to be willing, as your friend or as this person that you refer to, they have to be willing to go from those little steps to bigger steps and bigger steps and bigger steps. And that's what we do as coaches. We give them the strategies and the confidence to keep going.
And what we found out is when she did walk the 40-foot coal line, she felt like she could conquer the world. And I think that's where we want to get. That's really where the value is showing people that through conquering the small steps, they
Yes.
could conquer the bigger challenges. And that's where the life-changing, catharsis, the aha comes into play. Laura, we've
Yes.
been on this call for about 20 minutes, and I do appreciate that. Before we leave, give our audience a word of wisdom, some golden nuggets, something to take
Okay, cool.
away from this conversation on adding
Cool.
value to their life.
Okay, adding value to your life is a combined effort, right? You have to make the decision that you want it, that you want to improve, that you want to get better at whatever your goal is. And then you have to be willing to take those small steps until they lead into your bigger steps, or go from your small goals into your larger goals, into your final goals. And actually, there's no such thing as a final goal, but let's just say you're a macro, right? And we are here as coaches to support you, and we appreciate you tuning in.
All right. Well, this is Coach to Coach with Laura Vann-LaRusso and Dr. K, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.